Good evening, everyone. It's 6:01 and we're letting folks in. We're going to get started in about 2 or 3 minutes, and we have a great evening planned for our first event of the year, our first webinar of the second year of our Waters to the Sea stories. So, Anna Barker, you might be the one who, have you been to all of these, Anna? I'm just going to put you on the spot. Are you there, Anna?
Anna is definitely a
Yes.
tried and true CG advocate.
Yay.
Yes. Yes, yes.
If you go to everyone this year, we'll probably have to have some kind of an award ceremony at the end of the year. So thank you for your great support over all the time. It's fantastic.
You're very welcome. You deserve the accolades and the presents. Your presence is a present. It's a gift. Thank you guys for all you do.
Well, we have a marvelous event planned for tonight. I'm so thrilled. I see some old friends on. Hi, Mary Lee Hardenberg. I got to give you a shout out. It's always, I'm glad that you're on board. I hope you had a good equinox project. It sounded like you had a good time with a successful time with your event. So congratulations.
Thank you, Tracy. Took me a little while to find my unmute, but hello. You look great. I'm excited about tonight.
Yeah, so it's going to be wonderful. Just tell us just briefly about your event that you did on the equinox. Just for fun, we're going to give you a little time, but just give a shout out for it.
Yeah. So we had from 5 continents on the same moment. We had dancers do a short 2-minute dance at exactly the same moment, because it's the same moment equinox all over the world. So it was 11:30 at night in Australia and 6:30 in the morning in California. And then everybody sent in their videos, and we created a video, trying to show the simultaneity of the dancers. So it was really wonderful, and it was called The Moment of Balance, and the dancers were sending out good feelings of balance to the world. So, and feeling connected with each other. So we had like 70 dancers all over the world.
Fantastic, thank you. Well, I'm going to get started with the introductions, and we'll keep this moving forward. But welcome to the Waters to the Sea Stories series. Last year we started this with our good work with the Zoom and our new world of last year, and we thought it was a fairly good thing to continue doing. This year we'll be having 9 stories every month from now until May, and we're going to be focusing on water stories. A lot of them are going to be about the Mississippi River and our work in New Orleans. We're very excited to have kind of bringing in some of our Hawaiian friends. We have that happening tonight. But in January, we're going to be looking at wetland restoration, both on Kauai and in the delta of the Mississippi River. Looking for the commonalities. Mary Lee, I think we stole this idea from you, but I think you would like to give this out, the one river thinking. But I like to think in one systems thinking, but the one river concept kind of goes beyond just the Mississippi watershed to a worldwide framework. And we learn a lot by our friends on the islands, because it's really easy to see the inputs and outputs of an island living. We are so thrilled to be talking about some of these over the next few months. Tonight, we are going to be doing a celebration of native voice and the language of place. And with these seminars, we try to talk about some of the work that we have been doing. And tonight, we're going to be featuring Tia Koerte, who is the director of the Ke Kula Ni'ihau o Kekaha School. This is quite a story. We've been working together with her for over a decade, but in the last 5 years, we've done some remarkable work with the native Ni'ihau dialect of the Hawaiian language. And we're learning a whole lot about that. Folks ask us, well, why are you in environmental school working with language? And on one level, it's really clear, language is culture. And if you're going to work to preserve the environment, you have to have all the culture on board. So we think it's a really critical piece. They have a great school on the island of Kauai. We're also fortunate to be working with Keeli Siyaka, who is the environmental justice educator and organizer for the Lower Phalen Creek Project. This is a little bit more close to home for us in St. Paul. We've worked with the folks from the Phalen Creek on multiple projects over multiple years, but we are now working with them to tell stories of Phalen Creek, and we've got a wide variety of things that we have done with them over the last year or two. We've got all of these components have a multimedia component tied to it, and John Shepard, our assistant director, will be walking us through some of those issues as well. So we really have a remarkable evening lined up. We've decided to go for about an hour and a half. We may not go quite that long, but when we have two such good presenters, we are really thrilled to be able to have a little time to do this. John, if you want to go back to the one slide back, I'll kind of go through some of our rules a little bit. We are going to be, you can use the chat to ask questions. We'll be kind of noting those as we go through. And at the end, I will take the questions and answers after everyone is presented. Please keep your mic on mute. We know a bit about the Zoom etiquette now. You may turn your video on if you'd like. That's just fine. And we are recording the webinar, and so you can come back and visit it, or if some folks aren't able to make it. A lot of times people don't make it, but then they come back and look at it later on. So with that, John, we can keep going a little bit forward. I think we are just about ready to go. Oh, I want to give another shout out to Sarah Robertson, who has been coordinating this last year and doing a great job this year, and works with us with our professional development, Waters to the Sea, and our Rivers Institute. And she has been doing a great job of pushing these things forward, and has been in charge of the details and the technology behind this. So thank you, Sarah, for pushing this forward. So with that, I think we can start the presentation. So John, if you want, John is going to run the technology, but Tia gets to go first.
Okay, aloha mai kako. My name is Jamie. Kale momi pupu puanani o Ni'ihau Koerte. The long middle name means the beautiful momi or shell lei of Ni'ihau. If you see the picture to the left, I am wearing a lei momi. I also just go by the name of Tia. So all of that, and my family chose to call me a nickname, gave me a nickname of Tia. I am a 9th generation Ni'ihau descendant, and I was born and raised in Kekaha, Kauai. For those of you that aren't familiar with all of the Hawaiian islands, Kauai is the main island to the northwest of the Hawaiian island chain, and Ni'ihau is a tiny privately owned island just southwest of Kauai. I am a mo'opuna or granddaughter of Luka and Kamalino Ni'ihau of Ni'ihau. I am a Kita Mahine or daughter of Mike and Lou Ni'ihau Koerte. And I am a mama or mother to Lo'ea and Liloa, who are pictured in on the left. I was a middle and high school kumu at Ke Kula Ni'ihau o Kekaha from 2009 to 2014. And then I became the po'otumu or director in 2014 to present. Next slide. So this picture here is the last school-wide picture that we took back in 2020. And this is our entire student body. and staff. We're a very small school. Our enrollment this year is 60 students, 95% of which are Native Hawaiian. In our preschool, we have 6 Haumana or students. Our elementary has 28, and our middle and high with 26. Our staff include 81% of Native Hawaiians. We have 3 admin, 8 teachers, and 5 support staff. Our school vision from 21 to 2018 was that of striving to produce proficient communicators of Olelo Ni'ihau, or the Ni'ihau dialect of Hawaiian and English, with skills necessary for college and or career. In 2019, through our WASP accreditation, we revised our school vision to Ho'ohanohano ina tupuna o Ni'ihau, or we basically want to honor our Ni'ihau ancestors. Our school mission also changed. It started off from inception of the school to strengthening and perpetuating Olelo Ni'ihau, producing students with a lifelong search for knowledge, meeting the special needs of our community, and then preparing our students for rapid change of technology. It was also revised in 2019 to also include a more bilingual vision and mission. Our entire school community thought it was important to bring honor to our ancestors, to seek and attain knowledge, to sustain our ohana or our families, to be contributors to a flourishing language and culture of Ni'ihau, and last but certainly not least, to be rooted in aloha, or more commonly known as love, but aloha of spirituality, aloha for family, aloha for language, aloha for knowledge, the land, and of course, aloha for one another. So since 2019, our vision and mission has become more focused on what is important to us as a community, and what we feel would best prepare our students to be grounded in our language and culture, and as well-rounded as possible to be successful in today's world.
Okay.
Next slide.
Next slide.
Yes. Oh, actually, video.
Try to play the video. Okay.
Yes, before this slide.
Okay, hang on, everybody. Switching gears here. Just a sec.
So John's just gonna share a quick video. Well, it's a 5.5 minute video of one of the celebrations that we did with CG here on Kaua'i, after about a year and a half, I think, of working together and partnering.
Loho au maluna o ta'apapapa.
Ke Kula Ni'ihau o Kekaha Public Charter School held a special celebration in November to honor their student authors.
So welcome everyone to our second.
I don't think we can see the video,
of,
John.
Students, staff, and community.
Let me see. Why not? Stop sharing. Hang on. Sorry about that. QuickTime Player. All right, hang on. Okay, Tia, are we seeing you? Or are we seeing something else? Hang on. Let me quit this one. Okay. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. All right, are you seeing one of your students now?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Let's try that again.
Loho au maluna o ta'apapapa.
Ke Kula Ni'ihau o Kekaha Public Charter School held a special celebration in November to honor their student authors.
So welcome everyone to our second celebration of student, staff, and community authors of Olelo Ni'ihau Pute and other resources.
He sila nui te ia maluna o te one. No'ono'o wau.
The primary language of instruction is in the Ni'ihau dialect of the Hawaiian language. But students at this K-12 school also read English language books starting in kindergarten.
Olelo Ni'ihau, that we what we consider Olelo Ni'ihau, it's not a language of its own, on its own. It is the Hawaiian language. However, it's a specific dialect of the Hawaiian language.
All the students at the school are now published authors, and what makes their writing experience so special is that all the books are written in the Ni'ihau dialect. Most of the students have family, parents or grandparents from Ni'ihau.
I liked it because we could write it in our language, and I liked it that we continue to do what our kupunas did, and that's what I like about writing this book.
The school principal said the journey to create the books and learning materials in the Ni'ihau dialect started in 2016, when the school community, teachers, students, families, community members, and funders gathered to prioritize their educational goals.
We came up with 3 focus areas for the school, and the first was the Olelo Ni'ihau. Second was our, increasing our proficiency in English, language arts and math. And then our third, which actually got us eligible for the grant, was the chronic absence. So to reduce our chronic absentee rate.
The principal said there was no reading materials in the Ni'ihau dialect available to their students, so the small Kaua'i school teamed up with Hamline University, the oldest university in Minnesota, and applied for a federal grant to change that. The grant was approved in January of 2018, and they got to work.
I'm just so humbled and grateful that they've chosen to help us in this effort.
Language is core to our culture. Language is so important, and protecting that language and making it move forward, helping it to move forward is a critical component.
The charter school and university have now produced more than 75 hard-covered books, ranging from alphabet and number books for pre-K students to topics including beach outings, flowers and plants, and fictional stories for older students.
I decided to write the things that we can eat. So like this is called a green limu, and we can eat that as Hawaiians.
The books are also available as e-books that the students themselves voiced over for readers, and the books can be accessed online.
Exciting part about that is every student reads the book, and when you tap on the page, that student's voice is out. It literally is giving student voice.
The principal said it was a real community effort to create their curriculum, which led to the book project. She said the guidance she and her staff received from Ahapuna Naleo and Ke Kula o Kalani o Pu'u was invaluable. Along with the books, they also produce other educational resources, including blocks, flashcards, worksheets, and posters.
Providing our kumu with the resources necessary to really get the job done and ensure that our olelo does not, or that the foundation of our olelo is at a caliber that we would want to ensure perpetuity of it.
The principal said they have a lot of work to do. They set a goal of creating 1,000 books in the Ni'ihau dialect.
Our K-5 students have now are currently authoring their second book. We also at the same time are developing curricular units grounded in fictional stories that the core team is co-authoring together.
School leadership, staff, and students are thankful they have this opportunity to share and perpetuate their language.
We're doing this because we love our language and we want to spread it around the world. I felt really proud and really connected with my ohana on Ni'ihau because they really mean a lot to me.
We honor our ancestors by leaving behind a makana for the next generation.
and the following generation. So that video, you know, kind of takes us to up until November of 2018. And so just to kind of give a little bit more context in regards to the time, you know, the timing and how we got to today. And for those of you, you know, that are not familiar with our school, we were chartered in 2001. At that point, 100% of our students were considered fluent in Olelo Ni'ihau. In 2015, that was the year that I became transitioned from being a middle high school teacher into this role. Less than 50% of students at our school were fluent in the language. And also as a side note here, Olelo Ni'ihau up until that point had been an oral language, and there were no published resources available. So in 2016, a community and school-wide retreat was held, called Ho'ilina Mau, which means perpetuating the legacy. And it was a 2-day retreat, and we asked ourselves the following questions: where have we been as a school? Where are we now? And where do we want to be? The main outcomes of that, of all of the community stakeholders, was that the Olelo Ni'ihau needed to be prioritized, be the top priority at all times. So from January through July 2017, myself and my staff, you know, we kind of got to work, and then there were more questions that we needed to reflect on, such as who are we, what is important to us, our school, our community, our language, and furthermore, how do we then sustain our language and culture through education? It was also during this time, like the video had stated, you know, we as a young new leader, I sought help and guidance from our more veteran Hawaiian language movement friends over at Ahapunana Leo and Ke Kula Ni'ihau Pu'u. And we were able to, you know, there were 3 major events that took place. We flew to Hilo and spent a day at these language medium and language immersion schools. And then we were also, in a way, gifted, or I don't know what the word is, but one of their curriculum developers came out to us following that first trip, and she spent 3 days with us and helping us to really kind of look back into ourselves and what was important to our place, what made our language and culture unique. And from there, we were then invited to a third event that really was the tipping point. It was an Ahapunana Leo retreat that focused a lot on the hakalama, or the syllabary foundation that is used in preschools, Hawaiian language preschools. And it was very clear at that point, by July 2017, that we did not have a foundation per se in our dialect of the Hawaiian language. So in July 2017, coming back from that retreat, we got some staff members together, which was I gathered all of the native Ni'ihau speaking staff,
and we developed Kealapito. So Kealapito is the image on the bottom right. Very similar to the Hakalama, it is a syllabary foundation that we determined as a group with 45 different syllable units that make up the foundation of our language. Following that, there was a federal grant opportunity that arose. And then we also needed to, we had early conversations and commitments from Tracy and John during this time period. And then we were busy building our curriculum development team. So between July and December, there was technically no funding available, but we were pushing forward with this anyways, because it had been deemed a year prior to this, the most critical piece for our school moving forward. By January 2018, in 2018, our federal grant was approved, which meant that our partnership with Hamlin became official. And from February, basically from February of 2018 till today, October 2021, we've just been working really hard. We've developed Kealapito resources with Lee, if you guys are familiar, some of you are familiar with Lee. We also brought some teachers to the Rivers Institute for some professional development. And in June of 2018, the first 4 books were written in Olelo Ni'ihau. 3 of them were written by students who happened to be children of staff members who attended the Rivers Institute, and 1 book was a staff collaboration. Since then, we've had numerous authors workshops with Taylor Fredine. To date, we've produced over 200 student authored books. And last but certainly not least, our development team, curriculum development team at CG and KKNOK have authored 4 leveled curricular texts that are intended to be used for building out curriculum from here. So this is kind of the context in which we've been partnering with Hamlin to date. John has a showcase of just some of the resources and technology pieces that have been developed. So.
Okay, should I go ahead, Tia?
Yes. Please.
Okay, great. So again, I'm John Shepard. I'm the Assistant Director of Hamlin, our Center for Global Environmental Education at Hamlin. And just to hear you go through that, Tia, and kind of recount that history is just amazing to me. You know, how much, I mean, for a school that is living in a community that is speaking an oral language, that has no learning resources that are published as written texts and so forth. The things that have been accomplished, I think, are incredible. So just, you know, speaking for all of us, you know, we've been just so greatly honored to have the opportunity to work with you. And it is truly exciting to see all this come to fruition. So I'm going to share, you know, and just to kind of hit it one more time, over 200 books now authored in Olelo Ni'ihau, almost all of them by the students of Ke Kula Ni'ihau o Kekaha. It's extraordinary. And, you know, this dream of 1,000 books, I mean, we're on our way. And we realized pretty quickly that the only way it was really going to happen is if we got the students to do a lot of them, because the process as a writing team that we began doing for the initial book, you know, is taking time. And what a great opportunity to let them be, you know, kind of have that authorship and given voice. So that's a huge part of the work that's been done. The other things I want to share with you are just a few of the learning resources we have created as well that are online resources. So this, what you're seeing now, well, let me double check. Are you seeing a screen that's mostly in Hawaiian? with the icon of an ear over here.
Yes.
Somebody say yes. Okay, great. So these are some language learning multimedia games that we created. And Tia's been talking about this Ke Alapito, and this is a bigger version of it. And you can see each of these sound units. These are the sound units that you would use to speak any words in Ni'ihau. And so one of the things we've done here is, you know, this chart has been printed as a poster. We've written songs about it, recorded them. I have not written the songs, but students and teachers have written songs, recorded them. You know, this has been used in multiple ways, created learning blocks, flashcards, all that stuff. So this is just the online resources. And the way this works right now, if I click on each of these, I hear these pronounced. So I can just, this is a very basic tool to just begin to internalize this language. So that is one level of introduction. And then we've created jigsaw puzzles. So here if I click on the He'e, the octopus, I'm going to get all these words read. And then I'm given a jigsaw puzzle I can put together that will illuminate, you know, this scene. I'll try and do this very quickly. It's been a little while since I've done these. Let's see here. That's going to go in the middle. This is going to go here. This is going to go here. This is going to go here. So this is illuminating all of what was just talked about there in that list of words. And the other one's hiding down here. Whoops. So a jigsaw puzzle, when I get it done, I get that reinforcement. So, you know, some simple games. Again, this is for the younger grades. And I'll back out again. Then we have a memory puzzle here. And this is so we created these fun little game-like programs. Every student in the younger grades has an iPad. So all these games will play on those iPads. And then I'll show you briefly, we have a second level of games here that are for a little bit older students. So here we have a drag and drop activity. We have this classroom scene, and we have all of these, let me see if I can drag this up a little bit more, objects hidden somewhere in this picture. And you need to find each of them and drag them. You have to drag them to the appropriate word. So this is a little bit higher level. You have to be able to match the image with the printed word. Here's our friend, the He'e again. He'e. And if you get one wrong, let's see, Hotu. If I think a Hotu is a poo-poo, it will bounce back. So just some fun games that, you know, about 64 games altogether for multiple grade levels to reinforce some of these basic language concepts. So that was one of the tools we created, which was very fun and exciting. I'll share one other piece with you. Let's see, rough agenda. Okay, so this is a little bit more of an in-depth learning experience that combines English elements, Hawaiian, and Olelo Ni'ihau. So it's a series of multimedia learning modules. The illustration here is of one of the historic Polynesian ocean-going voyaging canoes that might have brought some of the first Hawaiians to Hawaii from Polynesia. And then down below, these icons are these beautiful calabashes, handmade wooden bowls that are used on a journey like that. So each one represents a different learning experience. So if I click on canoe plants, the canoe plants are the plants that the first Hawaiians brought with them and then began colonizing creating gardens in Hawaii with plants that they brought with them from Tahiti. So very important plants, including kalo or taro and many others. So we have more puzzle activities. We have a word search puzzle. We have videos and image galleries about the canoe plants. And this is all integrating student work as well. So the puzzles in this case are actually made by the students. These are very similar to the ones we were just looking at, but these are illustrations done by the students. I won't make you suffer through my trying to build another one again, but it was a way for us to include their artwork and their work in this process. So that's canoe plants. We have a whole module on kalo, which is a very, very important sacred food throughout Hawaii. And so we have videos kind of documenting the history of the plant. We have video and a 3D gallery of some of the tools used to work with kalo. And then we have an interactive where we're actually learning, it's teaching the different parts of the plant. And you have to identify, you're given, what is the Ayama Alau, and so that's English for leaf. So you need to figure out which part of the plant is the appropriate thing to click. So, it's just some fun interactive elements that get students engaged in learning some of that cultural content, but also with language. Tia began her presentation. She talked about these beautiful ni'ihau shells, lei pupu. So this is a lei made of shells that are particular to ni'ihau. And so we actually created, we have again videos about the tradition of shell lei making, of lei pupu making, museum gallery of some of these gorgeous shells that are just spectacular. This is from the Kaua'i Museum. So again, these are highly valued artifacts. And then we created a learning experience where you make your own, you build a lei by picking the appropriate shell that would go in each location. So you study this sample illustration, and this is one done by Lee Simmons, who Tia mentioned as our illustrator. So working with live, actual shell necklaces, then we build this interactive experience where we need to replicate, the design basically. So kind of emphasizing learning about these different types of shells, and learning to recognize them, learning the stories behind them and their names. So that's our lei pupu module, and others focusing on other important cultural concepts. Ahupua'a are traditional ways within Hawaii that the islands were divided into regions that supported communities and using very sustainable land use practices. So that's an interactive module on that topic. We have a big focus on the forest birds of Kaua'i and how they're doing, and learning a little bit about the biology of the birds, but also their cultural importance. And then the last one I'll share, this is still a little bit of a work in progress. And this is where we're building, incorporating student stories that are either from their own families or cultural stories associated with the island of Ni'ihau to the left, or Kaua'i. So you choose an island, you zoom in, and then we have a few of these different stories that are, again, student stories that would be integrated into this. So we are, this is one of the fictional stories that was developed by the team of Kumu, the teachers at Ke Kula Ni'ihau, working with our illustrator, Lee Simmons. And this is we've created a series of these books that are built around this fictional family. And this is kind of the beginning of the story where this young couple fall in love on Ni'ihau and they decide to get married. And then it's a story of the importance of the lei pupu, the necklace, and where the bride-to-be is going to create a necklace for her husband to wear for their wedding. And so it goes through the whole process of how you collect the shells and a little bit of the life cycle of these creatures that the shells are made from. And then eventually they run into a small crisis. They don't have enough shells, but the grandmother is able to come to the rescue. So it shows the making of the lei, and then the final scenes are of the wedding itself. And this wonderful vehicle is actually the vehicle on Ni'ihau. There's and the family here is standing at the entrance of the church. So we've replicated in great painstaking detail. After the wedding happens, the newly married couple climb in the back of this open pickup truck and go for a ride around the island and wind up at the community center for a celebration. So that's kind of a quick overview of some of the wonderful content we've created. And again, it has been just a true collaboration and really delightful and incredibly enriching for us as a team of folks from the mainland who, our vocabulary has grown a little bit. Some of us are able to, speak maybe a kindergarten level of Ni'ihau from having been working on all these projects. So anyway, I will pause there. That kind of takes us through this part of our presentation. And just want to reiterate what a joy it's been to be able to have that experience. So we're going to shift gears now. I'm going to stop sharing, and Keeli, I know Keeli's coming down with a cold, so she's bravely been willing to share her story with us. And if you want to take it away from here, Tracy gave a little introduction, but please feel free to give us some background. And I hope these presentations are generating questions, and we decided we're going to hold them all for the end just so that there's time to get through everything beforehand. But so we welcome your questions about Tia's work and Ke Kula Ni'ihau. For now, though, I'd love to, very honored to turn things over to Keeli and have you share with us your presentation and your ideas.
Yeah, thank you. Hamitaki. As John said, I'm coming down with a cold right now, so pardon me for my voice being a little nasally and my camera being off. I like, usually in these things when I'm speaking, I prefer to have my camera on so I can better connect virtually, but I look a little sick right now. So thanks for bearing with me. I'm going to be speaking a bit about the first language of Minnesota Makoche, which is Dakota Yapi. Can I go forward? So first I'll say Hamitaki Keeli Siyaka Makiapi da Makota Sisseton ga Wahpeton yate mataha Badeota tue ed matumpi Emija ska tue ed wati ga dawani Inawaye ki Lori Williams echiapi Atewaye ki Travis Renville echiapi. So so in Dakota I said, hello my relatives. My name is Keeli Siyaka. I'm Dakota from the Sisseton Wahpeton Oyate. I was born in Minneapolis, also known as the village of many lakes, Badeota Otue. Now I live and work in Amnesia-ska Otue, or the village of the White Bluffs, also known as St. Paul. And it's also common practice in introducing yourself in the Dakota language to include your relatives and your family. So I come from the Williams and Renville families from my tribe. So yeah, that's kind of a standard, I guess, introduction. In Dakota, Hamitaki, even in a room full of strangers, we say, hello, my relatives, because, you know, part of the Dakota, I guess, life ways is to be a good relative to all. And so, yeah, even in a room full of strangers, we're all human beings. And so it's always, you know, practice to be a good relative and introduce yourself in a good way. And yeah, also where you're from and who your people are. So I like to share this map to show a bit of the historical territory of my Dakota ancestors and also our Lakota and Nakota relatives. Before there were state borders, we lived all over, I guess, what would now be called the Midwest. And my reservation now is that big orange triangle in the middle of that map, Lake Traverse Reservation in South Dakota. The northeast corner of South Dakota is where my tribe is located today. My family and my tribe were one of the bands that were exiled from Minnesota Makotre after the Dakota War of 1862. And so I'm the first generation in my family actually to be born and grow up back in our homelands of Minnesota. So growing up, I really had two homes, the Twin Cities area where I was born and for the most part grew up around here, but I also traveled back to my reservation and visited my family all the time growing up. And that was where all of my extended family lived and also where my elders were. So this is my Unkana and my Unchi. Unkana is my grandpa, Lars Williams, my mom's dad, and Tina White. On the left side there is my Unchi grandma. She's his sister, but in Dakota way, all of my grandpa's siblings were also my grandparents. Yeah, I was treated they treated me as their own, I guess. And it was from conversations at the kitchen table between my elders that I really was exposed to Dakota language for the first time. And that's where I was able to pick up words and phrases here and there. So both of my Unkana and my Unchi in this picture are boarding school era survivors. And with that, I can't really speak to their experiences there other than to say that it was traumatic. And the goal of these schools, boarding schools and mission schools, was, of course, to make them feel ashamed of their culture and to prohibit them from speaking their language. And so I can't exactly speak to why they in particular did not choose to pass on the language to their children, my parents, the next generation. But I think part of it had to do with fear that if they taught their children culture and language, that the same policy might affect them someday, that they would also be taken to these schools. And they didn't want that. I also know that in that era, there was more shame about being Dakota in the dominant Western society. And so they didn't like to really speak. Yeah, they chose not to pass it on to that generation. So interestingly enough, the shame that may have come from their generation of speaking Dakota, for my generation, there's been shame of not being able to speak Dakota. So we kind of skipped a generation of fluent speakers, what would have been my parents' generation. There's very few. And I'll just kind of share a story. In high school, I felt this most strongly in English class one day. I'm not exactly sure how the topic got brought up, but we started speaking about past languages, and I had mentioned that I wanted to learn Dakota, and some fellow classmates of mine told me that why would you do that? Your language is dead. There's no use for it anymore. At least Latin, Latin's being taught at our school, and Latin's not a dead language because it gets used all the time, and it gets used in medicine, and it's the root of so many English words. And I was so shocked, and I wanted to cry in that moment. Honestly, I didn't know what to say to my peers because I didn't know my language, and I thought, maybe they're right. I didn't know how to respond or what to say. But I wish I could have shared then what I know now, that our language is very much alive and well. And if you've grown up in Minnesota, you've been using it all the time, sometimes probably unknowingly. Minnesota is itself a Dakota word. This is a map created by the artist Merlina Miles, and on it features our original names for a lot of landmarks across the Twin Cities, but also developed names. So you'll see things like the train there, and let's see, airplanes and other things like that. So our language is still evolving, and we're able to develop new words for what we see around us. And yeah, the names are also, many names are also still known by first language speakers. And so, yeah, I wish I could have shared growing up that we use it all the time. There's so many cities and places in Minnesota that the names were originally Dakota and have been anglicized. Anoka, Anunka, which means on both sides. Chaska. So sorry if I'm saying these weird, it's after learning the Dakota pronunciations, it's hard for me to go back to the English, I guess, pronunciation, the anglicized pronunciation. But Chaska, Chaske, firstborn child. Let's see, Mankato, Makato, Blue Earth, Mendota, Minnehaha. So many of these words have been kept alive and are referenced every day by our communities here in the Twin Cities. As you can see from this list, most places, the original names in Dakota were in reference to the physical attributes of that space, of that place, I guess, the natural features and such. After colonization, some names like Shakopee, for instance, were named after a Dakota chief or other leaders, but traditionally our names were supposed to kind of reflect the land. And so in that way, the beautiful thing about Dakota names, I think, is that it really helps us connect to the place that we are in. For instance, Imijaska, that was our original name for St. Paul. In this picture, you can kind of see the white bluffs in the back. That was the name for this area for, time immemorial. We use those bluffs as a landmark on Wakpa or the Mississippi to guide us and to help us find our communities. And yeah, the name Imijaska means village of the white bluffs, and that word amnesia or bluff has the word mani in it, which one language teacher we talked to think that's because it was in reference to water shaping those bluffs. So thousands of years ago, these bluffs and the landscape of St. Paul was shaped by the glaciers. And I just think it's a beautiful thing when you start learning the language, that you understand how much it connects us to place, even, thousands of years back. And I forgot to mention, I should just preface this all by saying I'm not a fluent speaker of Dakota. I'm 2 years into my formal education, but like I said, I grew up listening to my elders speak and picking up as much as I could from them. So a lot of my work focuses on the sacred site Wakaŋ Tipi. And this is also today known as Bruce Vento Nature Sanctuary in St. Paul, just right next to the Mississippi there. I always kind of struggle to translate Wakaŋ Tipi into English because that word Wakaŋ has a lot of different meanings. The standard kind of translation is sacred, but it also means mysterious. And Wakaŋ Tipi, therefore, might mean dwelling place of the sacred. So that word tipi too, a lot of people know it as the structure, the lodge structure, but tipi actually was kind of a miscommunication with the first non-native travelers in the area here. They pointed over to the structures and were asking, "What are those?" And our ancestors at the time said they thought they were asking, who's over there? And so they said, "Oh, tipi, they live over there." So that word has kind of transformed to mean the structure, but it originally meant they live over there. So that's how it kind of translates to dwelling place of the sacred, or where the sacred are. But another thing, our language has evolved too. We use that word tipi. Like I said, at first it was a miscommunication, but now we use that when we're speaking about different buildings, we call them tipis too. So a wote tipi, a restaurant, or Wawapi tipi, a library. So again, just showing that languages can change. Another project area we work at at Lower Phalen Creek Project is Phalen Creek. As I think John mentioned, Phalen Creek was a creek, a Wahpeton, that connected to the Mississippi. And it meandered for about 5 miles through St. Paul, all the way up to Phalen Lake and through the chain of lakes. And by the 1920s, it was piped completely underground. Sorry, this picture is a little blurry, but it showed settlers actually canoeing this creek. So yeah, up until the 1920s, people were able to travel all through St. Paul by water. But to make way for development on the east side, it was piped underground and remains a part of the stormwater infrastructure of the city. But we want to bring the creek back. And part of that has also been, and this is really encouraging to me, but a lot of non-natives in our community have come to us and asked, what was the original name of Phalen Creek? And what was the original name of Lake Phalen? I don't want to get too into it, but Edward Phalen, for which these bodies of water are named after, has a bit of a disgraced legacy. If you ever want to look up that story. So people have asked, what's an alternative name, and we want to honor that history. Unfortunately, that name has been forgotten, but I would like to think not completely lost. There are, I think, tribal historic preservation officers out there that have that in the back of their mind and are looking for the original name of this Wahpeton, this creek, and Lake Phalen. Because my ancestors, we had a close connection to these bodies of water. We were able to travel them from the Mississippi all the way up through the chain of lakes. We were able to harvest wild rice on these waters, and tap trees for maple sugar and have maple sugar camps and just be in community in these spaces. So the great thing about these is that even if we don't find the original name, a new name could be created, again, to honor a restored waterway, honor the features of that restored waterway in Dakota. Badeota, like I said, Minneapolis, our word for Minneapolis, that's a developed name. So it's definitely possible, and it's made more possible by people like Dr. Kate Bean and her sister Carly Bad-Hartbull. Kate is on our board of directors at Lower Phalen Creek Project, and she has set an amazing precedent. Her and her family has set an amazing precedent for what name restoration looks like, and have developed a process for that. And so part of their work has really shed a light all across Turtle Island at the possibility of returning these names, these original names, to their place, to places. And yeah, like I said, the encouraging thing about that for me is that a lot of our names, rather than named after individuals, are named after the land itself. And I think that encourages more of a care and a connection to that place. And yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you all. Padamia Yapi. John can share a video we've worked together on a little bit more about Phalen Creek and caring for our waters.
Okay, if you want to stop sharing your screen, Keely, I will find that video and open it up here. Hang on one second, please. Okay. Okay, so this is a clip from a video that we're producing that is introducing this whole idea of daylighting or bringing back to the surface Phalen Creek. And Keely was one of the people interviewed as part of that. We also have done interviews with other community members of different parts of the community, and different cultural traditions on St. Paul's East Side, and having them reflect back on days when the creek was still flowing through an area that's called Swede Hollow, and which is just upstream of the Wakaŋ Tipi area. So anyway, this is a clip of kind of introducing the project with Keely sharing her perspectives on the project and on the creek.
For Dakota people, we're raised understanding that word mani, water, to be our first medicine, to be the thing that connects us all, to be the life giver. And we understand that it not only supports human beings, but also our plant and animal communities around us. And so you grow up respecting that power of water and also appreciating it, no matter how small the body of water, no matter how polluted or how clean, it all should be treated with respect and taken care of. Ijaska and Badote, or better known as St. Paul, and the confluence of the Mississippi and Minnesota rivers have carried my people through Minnesota Makoche for generations. And all of the waters that connected us to that point were also thereby sacred and important to us culturally. One such waterway was, of course, Wahpeton, the Mississippi, and then also this Wahpeton that's come to be known as Phalen Creek, which we were able to travel all the way up to present-day Lake Phalen. We were able to harvest maple sugar there, hunt, and also harvest psi, or wild rice. And we were able to take that creek all the way up to Phalen Lake and even further through the chain of lakes and be able to be in community and live off the land there. Bringing back the creek is incredibly important to me, not only for us as human beings to enjoy that waterway again and again have that connection, but also to bring back many of the plant and animal communities that have since been lost as well. Again, it's also so incredibly important that we care and nurture our water. Even in Minnesota Makoche, where it seems like water is abundant, we're entering a time where things are changing, and it's growing ever more important that we protect the waters that we do have and also bring back the waters that have been lost, like Phalen Creek.
Okay, and finally, just a few more minutes of sharing some of the resources that we have all been working on developing in partnership with the Lower Phalen Creek Project. I'm going to just actually go back to one of the images that Keely shared in her slideshow. Hang on one sec, let me find this. So Keely, you shared that beautiful map Marlena Miles made of the Twin Cities area. And working with Keeli and with some of her colleagues at the Lower Phalen Creek District, we created an interactive learning experience that really provides an opportunity to celebrate and honor the Dakota homeland, which is the land that Hamlin University sits upon, that all of us who live and work here at CGEE, our homes are on the Dakota homeland. So this has been, I think, a particularly important project for us as a way of honoring that history and a way of holding up and sharing Dakota voices about these places. So I'm just going to introduce this module to you. What you're looking at right now would be an introductory video that really the list of place names that you shared, Keeli, many of them are mentioned here as well. And it's kind of making that same point that you made, which is how many places that are common in the Twin Cities region are Dakota places and Dakota names. So I'm going to skip over that. And then this is, again, that same map that Marlena Miles created, and with her permission, we are incorporating it. And each of the circles on the map is a place where we have stories. And the stories are videos that have most of them curated from Dakota video producers telling stories of these places and their importance. And then on the right-hand side is the legend, where again, all these places are listed. We've included the name of all of them, and then there's a little speaker icon. So when you click those, you'll actually hear the correct pronunciation.
Wakaŋ Tipi, Bedote, Wita Tonka.
So that's one way, one dimension of what we're looking at here. There's about 15 different video stories here, and I would just share a couple of them with you just to give you a flavor for what some of those stories are about. Bedote is a place that Keeli mentioned in the video we did with her, the confluence of the Minnesota and Mississippi rivers. This is a video with Leonard Wabasha introducing the importance of that location.
This is the center of the universe, the center of all things. We are at a place that my people, the Dakota, call Bedote. This particular Bedote is very significant to many of the Dakota people, because they believe that this is the spot where the Creator made us. He used parts of everything that you can see around us here, the trees, soil, some of the fish, some of the birds that are flying by. That's one of the reasons why we have this connectedness to all things. Mitakuye Owasi, and that means everything is related. We used the river valleys as our homes because we had fresh water right there. We had the use of the river where we could fish, we could gather wild rice, and we could travel almost anywhere, as far south as the Gulf of Mexico, as far east as the Ohio River Valley, as far west is the Rocky Mountains, up all the tributaries that bleed into the Mississippi River. We could find locations where maple trees grew. We could do sugar mapling in the springtime. The water, of course, is sacred, but all water is sacred. We believe that the water is, in a way, the blood of Mother Earth, and it helps everything to sustain. Everything is a life. All things have spirit, even the rock. Respect these things because it's all we have to fall back on.
So I'll pause there, and I think recognizing we have maybe 20 minutes left or so, we'll send out links for you all to be able to explore all of the resources we've been showcasing here. But I think it would be great to be able to open this up for discussion and questions. Hopefully, I'm imagining that Tia's and Keeli's presentations would generate a lot of questions. So I will stop, and Tracy, if you want to go ahead and.
Yes, thank you, John. Thank you, Keeli and Tia. We do have a few questions, and we'll start with one for Keeli, which is what does Minnesota mean in the Dakota language? I imagine there might be more than one meaning about that, but it always seems to be, is it cloudy water? Is it sky blue water? Can you give us any, that is a question that we have.
Yeah, that's one beautiful thing about Dakota is that even in learning the language, there are lessons to be learned, I guess. So Minnesota has multiple translations, I guess, and different families have different, I guess, viewpoints and ways of translating that. Some people say Minnesota, which is like smoke and water, smoky water. Again, kind of referencing some of the Minnesota River there and the kind of, I guess, turbulent waters there. But there's other translations that are escaping me right now, where the waters, it could also be interpreted to mean, I guess, like where the waters reflect the clouds or the sky. So yeah, different families believe different things, and that was all okay. That was all accepted in our society of there's more than one way of looking at things. There's more than one name for places too. Wakaŋ Tipi is one word for the sacred site at Bruce Vento Nature Sanctuary, but other families have called it Otiwakan or let's see, Dakushkanshkan. There's other names for it. And so, yeah, that's one lesson, I guess, that's just built into the different translations is that we were accepting of different ways of looking at things.
I love the way you phrase that. And I've always heard it said there may be multiple truths about a single topic, and there's different points of view, which kind of brings up another question for Tia, which is how many native Ni'ihau speakers are there? And I know there was always a controversy, even in our team, about what would be the right way to phrase something. And, you know, as Keeli just said, different families would have different meanings, and that doesn't mean anybody's wrong. It means that there's certainly room for debate and I dare say controversy. But could you speak about that a little bit with your work?
Sure. You know, we don't have an actual number for the amount of native Ni'ihau speakers left, but I mean, I would take a shot and say probably 500 or less, and that's probably being generous. Thus the reason, you know, the existence of our school and the work that we've accomplished together with Hamlin is so critical in the survival of our our language into the next generation and beyond.
Can you talk about how, you know, you might decide, especially as you write something down? I know we were very concerned, like if you write it down, that means like that must be the right way to do it. Well, it is but one way to do it. And you, when we write it down though, I know you were concerned like, oh, people are going to think that's the only way to do it. But can you talk just a bit about that? I know Hokalani was quite involved with that. I mean, your whole team of teachers had good dialogue about this.
Absolutely, because it kind of also depends on where each family is from on the island of Ni'ihau. There are little subtleties even within our dialect. And so one of the rules of thumb that we've kind of followed, and that's thanks to Hokulani, who's even on this, so mahalo Hokulani, but the Ni'ihau people have relied on the only written text that has carried our people through is that of the Bible, the Hawaiian Bible. And so now if there's ever a debate, we go back to the Bible and see if there are examples of a particular pattern or word that was most commonly used. And so that's kind of how we settle debates. Otherwise, you know, speaking of debate, just as an example, when we first started this work, there was I don't know, maybe we spent like 3 hours on the word for 100. So depending on when you were using the word 100, and you know, this native speaker said, no, we said it like this all the time. And anyways, so we have resulted to going to the Bible to solve any of those sort of debatable situations.
And Tia, we're I think it's always interesting at times as we've been doing education, it was always more, someone was phrased as, what were the natives, what were they doing in the old days, as if the native culture doesn't exist and there is no here and now. So I know that Mona Smith and other folks have said the word like, we are here. So, you know, we're not like, oh, celebrate the past. But what are some of the things that you're doing with your school beyond just the written components? I know you were doing some outreach, working in the community, having kids plant taro, but could you just talk about some of the future projects that you're on, the hands-on things that you're doing?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I haven't shared, you know, I did show the map early in my presentation of the two islands, Kaua'i and Ni'ihau. So you know, our school is located on the island of Kaua'i. Our mission and vision is grounded in the language and culture of the island of Ni'ihau. Just kind of, you know, island politics here, but Ni'ihau is also privately owned and it's not as accessible as we would like it to be. So the greatest challenge for us is connecting to the actual place that, you know, our school has built its vision and mission around. So in Keeli's presentation, you know, and she showed the map of all of these significant places, you know, unfortunately for us, we actually can't visit these places. So, however, our place on the island of Kaua'i is here in Kekaha. So formerly, you know, we would kind of dwell on the fact that we didn't have access to the island of Ni'ihau these days. And so just in the past couple of years, you know, it was like, well, we have to stop dwelling on that. We can try our best through native speakers and those who were born and raised on Ni'ihau to share. That's why this idea of publishing stories is so important, so that our children can read the stories of Ni'ihau, even though we can't go there. But then the shift needed to be made to say, well, you know, we do have a home here on the island of Kaua'i in Kekaha, so it's important then to at least connect to this place. So this year we have, it's been in the works for the last year or two now, but we finally have found a partner organization in the next town over in Waimea Valley, Kaua'i, where the students are are going there twice a week. Our middle and high school students are there twice a week, all day, and basically doing hands-on, place-based learning as a way to connect to a place, reconnect to a place.
Excellent. It's what's for some folks that are not from your area, the Ni'ihau is in a rain shadow. So it's the Mount Waialeale gets over 30 feet of rain, whereas there's about 8 inches of rain on Ni'ihau and then Kekaha. So it's an interesting component, and there was always a lot of flow back and forth, from my understanding. And 200, 400 years ago, it wasn't just like you're on Ni'ihau. It's like, no, you would go back and forth. If there was a drought on Ni'ihau, you'd come over to Kekaha. So it wasn't this separation that really, the European settlement came in and said, no, you own this and you own that. But there was a lot of flow back and forth. So I think that's kind of interesting to think about. Like, no, it's Ni'ihau was probably spoken on all of Kauai and Ni'ihau because that's the way it was 200, 300 years ago. Keeli, I wanted to have you talk briefly about the future work that you're doing with the Environmental Learning Center. This is a really big deal. I want to celebrate. I know you've just got the big grant from the state of Minnesota. I believe you're almost, I think you're going to be breaking groundbreaking this maybe this fall even. But just say about that and the vision of the future of that program, because the past is, we are here, Native American voices are here, Hawaiian voices are here, and there's good things happening. So Keeli, can you say more about that?
Yeah, I will. I just want to add a comment. Tia was talking about the different Hawaiian dialects. We, of course, have different Dakota dialects as well. And I learned that even individual families had a little bit of a different way of speaking. And so when you'd meet new people, just by your dialect, you'd be able to say, oh, you're Sisseton, oh, you're from the Wana family. That's how kind of specific it could get. So I think that's really cool. The Wakaŋ Tipi Center, we're having a groundbreaking next Monday, actually. I say groundbreaking, my camera's not on, but I was doing air quotes here. It's kind of a destructive term that we don't really like to use, but we're instead calling it a unchi maka wo abdezapi, or a Mother Earth honoring. So we're just honoring the land that the center is going to be built on, putting our prayers down and our good intentions for the space and the center that's going to be built that's finally coming to fruition. I've been working for Lower Phalen Creek Project now for a little over 4 months. And this is a project that's been in the works for over a decade. And my executive director, Maggie Lorenz, has done a lot to really make it a reality. So we're really excited about this center. It's one of the first places on Turtle Island that I know of where the story of the sacred site will be told by Dakota people, by the people that it has always been sacred to. So there'll be authentic cultural interpretation, historical interpretation there. We're going to have some food kitchens, or like food demonstration kitchens, a community garden, and yeah, more spaces for community to gather, for Dakota people to return to. And it's all very exciting. I'm very humbled to be a part of this work right at this moment. And another part of our teaching and our work at Lower Phalen Creek Project is with plant relatives. We do a lot of plant education and plant walks in the sanctuary. So there's a lot of native plants down there, and I'm still learning a lot about them, the ones that are edible and medicinal, but also the Dakota names for some of those plants. So learning the Dakota names gives so much more insight into how they were used, and again, just helps you appreciate the gifts that those plants have to share with us. So yeah, those are all things that we'll be able to share with the community at the center. And if you're in the Twin Cities, next week, Monday, starting at, I should know this, I think 4 o'clock, we'll have a land honoring ceremony at Bruce Vento Nature Sanctuary.
Got it. there is a question that came out, and there's also, I want to make another honoring statement. Hokalani Cleland, I imagine about 50 years ago, was working at his kitchen table with a group of educators, and was a major factor in launching some of the Hawaiian language work. It wasn't just him, of course, but he was an early leader. He is on the board of directors and is teaching at the school. And he wrote, I believe, one of the first or an early book on teaching Hawaiian language. So I want to give that shout out to Hokalani. It's been a real pleasure to be able to meet him and to work with him and to see his dedication to the KKNOK school. And Mary Lee did have a question for Keeli, where are you learning about your language study? And if you're 2 years into it, say more about your language acquisition.
Yeah, I took 2 years formally of Dakota language at or through the U of M, Twin Cities. My professor is my Dekshi, my uncle. He's also from Sisseton, Wahpeton, Shishoka Duta, or Joe Bendixson. And yeah, he's done a lot of great work, him and also another teacher there, Chante Maza. Yeah, we've done a lot of, I actually did all of my language learning over Zoom, which presented some challenges, but also, and I think it's another great tool. It allowed me to learn the language from a different campus. And since COVID has happened, there's just been a flourishing, I guess, of Dakota language in our community, of being able to be taught over Zoom and over online platforms. Before, you kind of had to show up to a physical location, and you know, that can just be hard for a lot of people, and especially hard to get like a full classroom of people that wanted to learn the Dakota language. So really been thankful for technology during this time. That's been one kind of silver lining to the whole situation, is that you get to connect with some relatives you didn't even know you had. I know we were able to get, they get a lot of Dakota language speakers from Canada even that participate in the classes as well.
Well, thank you so much. I think that's going to wrap up our questions, but I want to just say it's been an honor for our center to work with both of these organizations and individuals, trying to understand what being an ally is like, of trying to help spread and tell stories and engage. And we are just thrilled that we're able to do this tonight. And we have a lot of other great learning tools. We would love to explore how we might take the ability to have students of any language be their own authors is something we're very interested in. And I know that the funding for the school and for the Phalen Project is always needed as well. So if you are inclined and like to make a donation to those folks, that money is always helpful. But you know, money is one thing, but the will and the concept and the belief in our work is as important. And I just want to thank everybody that was here tonight to learn a bit more about this and allow us to keep going forward. So Sarah, if you want to walk through the end of the component, and we'll wrap this up in 1 minute here.
Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to contact us. We have, like Tracy mentioned at the beginning, we have a whole kind of season of different webinars that we're doing. We have continuing education units that are available for this webinar, 1.5. If you want to, I can put this in the comments as well, this tiny URL. I'll be sending out an email to everyone that signed up with a link to the recording of tonight, as well as all of the resources that were discussed, and also contact information for everyone. Yeah, and we're doing this every month on that first Tuesday. So come back and meet with us again.